Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we turn info overload into instant knowledge. Today, we're diving deep into a specific golf swing, the blueprint for the upper core golfer.
Yeah, this is super specific. We're breaking down all 9 positions, P1 through P9, but really tailoring it for players who use those, vertical movements and more arm-dominant leverage.
Right, so this isn't your standard swing lesson.
Not at all. Think of it as the specific instruction manual if that vertical arm-driven swing feels like you.
And our goal here is really to give you that shortcut, that insight into the biomechanics. If you feel like you use your shoulders, your arms, that vertical lift for power, then understanding how your posture, balance, rotation, how it all differs is, well, it's crucial.
It really is. Totally different from, say, a low-core player, and honestly, it all kicks off right at the beginning, P1, the address position. You mess this up.
And the rest doesn't work.
Pretty much. It's the foundation. Non-negotiable.
Okay, let's unpack P1 then. For the upper core player, you hear tall and structured. What does that actually look like, spine and pelvis-wise?
It means you're standing taller, fundamentally less bent over from the hips, compared to maybe what you see with a lot of tour pros. That more upright spine encourages let's say, a more neutral pelvis. It's not tilted way forward.
Okay, and why stand so tall? What's the functional reason?
It's all about facilitating a steeper swing plane. If they bent over too much, they'd naturally swing flatter, which fights against their strength, that vertical leverage.
Ah, okay. So the posture enables the plane.
Exactly. And to go with that, the arms hang more vertically. And here's a key detail. The hands end up a bit higher and maybe slightly further from the thighs.
Than someone swinging flatter.
Right. That little bit of extra space there, that distance, it's critical. It buys them room for that steep takeaway and backswing.
So that hand position immediately sets the angle for the whole arc. I also noticed the source mentions weight distribution evenly over the arches, but a subtle lean towards the heels.
Yeah, that slight heel bias is like an anchor. Standing taller makes you a bit less stable, potentially.
Right, you could tip forward.
Exactly. So that subtle shift back just helps stabilize everything, anchors that upright posture, especially important later when things start rotating fast.
Makes sense. And one last thing at P1, the lifted chin. Seems small, but it's functional.
Purely functional. It's about clearance. You lift the chin slightly so that when your shoulders make that big turn later on, the chin isn't blocking the lead shoulder. It just allows for a free, unrestricted rotation.
Got it. So P1,
Yeah.
tall, anchored, hands set for steepness, chin clear, ready to move.
Ready to miss. Now P2, the start of the backswing. If P1 was structure, P2 is about who starts the party.
Initiation dominance, right?
Correct. For the upper core golfer, it's the arms and shoulders taking charge right away. Upper body musculature leads.
And that makes the club head move differently.
Yep. It tends to move slightly upward and outside the hands almost immediately. It's not a low and slow sweep. It's more of an immediate lift, starting that steep path right away.
What's interesting there is what the lower body isn't doing.
Exactly. It's quiet, passive, it's resisting, providing that stable base, while the upper body starts lifting and turning. No big early weight shift or hip turn.
Okay, so upper body initiates, lower body stabilizes. That takes us pretty quickly to P3, where the lead arm gets parallel to the ground. This sounds like where we see width and height really develop.
Yeah, definitely. The lead arm gets quite elevated, often feeling like it's above the midline of the chest. This creates that width, that space, hands feeling far from the body. And as the arm lifts, the wrists start doing something specific.
Okay.
It's often called a diagonal hinge.
Diagonal hinge. Let's pause there. Sounds technical. For someone picturing this, what is that? Why does it happen here?
Okay, so think about wrist cock. You can hinge purely up and down, like hammering a nail,
Yeah.
or purely side to side, like opening a door. A diagonal hinge is kind of a blend. It allows the club head to lift vertically to support that steep path the arm started, while also keeping the club face angle, under control.
So it's the wrists working with the arm lift, maintaining that steepness.
Precisely. The setup gave the potential for steepness, the arms started the lift, and now the wrists hinge diagonally to keep it climbing effectively. And throughout this P3 phase, it's still the upper torso doing the work. Hips are still pretty quiet.
Still passengers.
Still passengers. Which brings us nicely to P4, the top of the backswing. This is the coil, the energy storage phase. And this is where the upper core player's mechanics really stand out.
This is where it gets fun, right?
Yeah.
Maximum height, maximum coil, hands are way up, well above the trail shoulder, lead arm is still firm, elevated. But the big story is the X factor.
Absolutely. The X factor, that difference between how much the shoulders have turned versus the hips. And for the upper core player, this stretch is often maximized. You'll see shoulder rotation hitting close to 90 degrees,
20 degrees, okay.
while the hips might have only turned maybe 30 to 40 degrees, sometimes even less.
Wow. 90 against 30 or 40. That's a huge separation. For the listener trying to feel that, it must create some serious tension in the torso.
Oh yeah, it should feel really taut, like a rubber band, stretched tight between your shoulder line and your hip line. You'll feel it in your obliques, your core. That separation, combined with keeping that upright spine we set up back in P1, that's what loads the system.
Ready for an explosive release.
Exactly. And the trail leg is bearing most of the weight now, anchoring that coil, ready for the transition down.
Okay, we've built this massive potential energy at P4. How do we unleash it without wrecking everything? P5, the transition, started the downswing. You mentioned top-down sequencing is key here.
This is probably the most critical differentiator for this swing type. The transition starts with the torso and shoulders unwinding, not a big hip drive. The hips start moving, yes, but more in response to the upper body firing.
Now that feels counterintuitive to a lot of golf instruction, which often screams, fire the hips. If I start unwinding with my shoulders first, how do I avoid coming over the top? That's the classic slicer's move.
Great question. And the answer lies in how the hands move. They don't thrust outwards towards the ball. Instead, they begin to drop almost vertically from the top.
Ah, so down, not out.
Exactly. That vertical drop preserves the wrist hinge, the lag that you stored on the way up. And crucially, the lower body's initial job here isn't to spin open wildly, it's to stabilize and anchor, to provide a solid base to support that steep, powerful unwinding from the top.
So it's like the upper body initiates the downswing aggressively, but the lower body provides the brace, the control.
You got it. Upper body fire, lower body brace. That stability from below is what allows the upper body to unwind powerfully without throwing the club way out over the line. It keeps that steep path on track.
Okay, that makes sense. That controlled aggression leads into P6, club parallel on the downswing. This is like a checkpoint.
Definitely a checkpoint. You want to see that club shaft positioned steeply, ideally tracking above your trail forearm when viewed down the line.
And that steepness just confirms the vertical sequence, the top-down move, has been maintained.
Correct. Meanwhile, the torso is rotating hard through the shot. By P6, the chest is already starting to point slightly ahead of where the ball is or was.
And what's enabling that rotation while maintaining the steepness?
That bracing lead leg we talked about, it's pushing firmly into the ground, creating what's called vertical ground force.
Okay, another term, vertical ground force. What does that feel like at P6?
It feels like you're pushing straight down into the ground with your lead foot. Almost like you're trying to jump, but you channel that energy into rotation instead of liftoff. That downward push stabilizes your posture, stops you from tilting sideways too much, too early.
So it supports the rotation and helps maintain that upright posture needed for the steep hip.
Precisely. It's pressure down to support the powerful vertical unwinding and rotation around.
That combination, the aggressive rotation, the vertical force, sounds like the perfect setup for impact.
Which brings us to P7, the moment of truth. And for the upper core player, P7 is really defined by that descending strike, fueled by all that vertical energy we've been talking about. Because the hands and arms led the way down vertically.
The hands are ahead of the ball.
Way ahead. Clear forward shaft lean. That's what creates the compression, that crisp contact.
Right, the compression gives you the high spin, that penetrating ball flight, often associated with this type of player. What's the spine doing right at impact?
This is key. It's staying relatively upright. Minimal side bend towards the target compared to other swing styles. The chest is rotating through, facing maybe slightly left of the target for a right-hander, but the vertical orientation of the spine is maintained.
So that stable, upright spine allows the arms and hands to deliver the club steeply and consistently.
Exactly. It's structure enabling speed and precision. Structured vertical power meets the ball. Crisp strike, clean contact.
Ball's gone. Now we need to finish the motion. P8, post-impact extension. This should tell us that the vertical force is really dominated.
It's a great confirmation point. You'll see a high exit. The trail arm fully extends and the hands move upward and left for a righty along that steep arc they came down on.
Following the same path up as they came down.
Pretty much. And notice the spine, it often extends vertically, almost like the player is standing up taller through the shot. It confirms that vertical forces led the way. The weight's now fully posted over that lead leg.
Everything moving up and around. We kept the posture, turned it into extension, and finally, P9, the finish position. What's the final picture? Tell us.
The finish really summarizes the whole approach. It's typically a classic high and tall pose. Arms are fully extended, often high, with the club finishing somewhere above or even behind the head.
Spine still long and upright.
Yes, lengthened and upright. The whole look emphasizes vertical extension much more than, say, a deep, wrapped-around rotational finish you might see elsewhere. It just confirms that balanced, structured finish that results from upper body dominance.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this whole P1 to P9 journey for the upper core golfer.
If you boil it all down, the sequence really hinges on, I'd say, three main things. First, that vertical structure established right back at P1. Second, the arm-dominant leverage you see starting in P2 and developing through P3. And third, that really crucial top-down sequencing at P5.
And those three things work together to minimize sideways movement and maximize control over that steep delivery.
That's the essence of it. It's about controlling that steepness through structure and sequence.
And looking back, it feels like that P1 setup, the tall posture, the hands a bit higher and further out, it's not just a preference, it's the absolute starting point.
It's the prerequisite. You simply can't execute the rest of this specific sequence effectively without that roundation. Everything builds from P1.
That really drives home how interconnected these positions are. This has been a fantastic blueprint. Now, for the listener, something to chew on. We talked quite a bit about the big difference at P4, the shoulders turning maybe 90 degrees while the hips only turn 30 or 40, that huge X-factor stretch.
Right, that's stored energy.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. How does maximizing that massive rubber band-like stretch, while simultaneously keeping the spine so deliberately upright all the way through the downswing and impact, how does that combination allow the upper core golfer to generate genuinely explosive speed and yet maintain the control needed for that precise, steep, descending strike? Think about how that structure actually enables the speed rather than restricting it.